The Girls Aloud singer Sarah Harding has died of breast cancer at the age of 39. Girls Aloud had 21 top 10 hits over the course of a decade. Stars and producers have been paying tribute.
She was the girl next door that had got it all. She was identifiable by the audience that were going to buy her records. That was the beauty of Sarah.
There's a growing backlash among Conservatives to suggestions of a national insurance increase to pay for social care in England. The head of one of Prince Charles's charities has stood down following allegations that he helped secure an honour for a wealthy donor. And dancing and fireworks bring the Paralympics to a close in Tokyo. Britain's athletes have finished second in the medals table. Hello, good evening. The Girls Aloud singer Sarah Harding has died at the age of 39. She was diagnosed with breast cancer last year. She was part of one of the most successful British female bands of all time. Formed on a reality show, they went on to have 21 top 10 hits. Sarah Harding's mother, Marie, described her as a bright, shining star. And her bandmate Nadine Coyle has said she is absolutely devastated. Our entertainment correspondent Lizo Muzimba looks back at her life. His report contains some flashing images.
After 3 months of competition, the moment her dream came true.
Sarah.
But Sarah Harding could scarcely have imagined the success that would follow. Every one of their first 16 singles, a top 10 hit. Thanks to a collection of irresistibly catchy songs, they were soon selling thousands of singles and performing to sold-out audiences. Sarah brought powerful vocals and a willingness to be portrayed as the band's most outrageous personality, the headline-grabbing party girl. She also acted. There were small parts in Coronation Street.
Actually, I don't suppose by any chance you know a Tracy Barlow?
And the second of the new St Trinian's movies. It's been fun.
It's been great fun. We have a real giggle actually in between takes. We really are naughty schoolgirls because we have to be kept told to girls, shut up.
Girls Aloud Nadine Coyle has led the tributes, saying she was absolutely devastated. I can't think of words that could express how I feel about this girl and what she means to me. I know so many of you will be feeling this way. And pop stars judge Pete Waterman paid his tribute to her this afternoon.
She was the girl next door that had got it all. She was identifiable by the audience that were going to buy her records. That was the beauty of Sarah.
When the singer discovered an enlarged lymph node just before COVID began, the pandemic was a factor in her delaying seeking treatment.
Breast cancer is, in fact, a very curable illness if it's diagnosed early. But the unfortunate thing in Sarah's case is that she was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer, where it had already spread to her body, and you can only survive it for as long as the treatments are helping and stalling breast cancer from spreading any further.
Sarah and the other 4 members of Girls Aloud went their separate ways in 2013, but not before they'd entertained fans for the best part of a decade. Sarah Harding was a crucial part of the group, a woman who achieved so much in a life cut short at such a young age.
Sarah Harding, who's died at the age of 39. Well, she was diagnosed with breast cancer last year when she was 38. Our health correspondent Catherine Burns is with me. How common is this cancer in someone of that sort of age, so young?
Sarah Harding was very unlucky to get it at such a young age. Only 4% of cases are diagnosed in women under 40. By far, it's seen as a bigger risk once you're over 50. She was also unlucky in that the first symptoms she had, pain in her breast, isn't seen by itself normally as a sign of cancer. But if there's a pain that doesn't go away, you should get it checked out. The other reason she was unlucky also is that she started to get sick during lockdown in the pandemic, and she says she delayed going to the doctor because of that. Now, she wasn't alone in that. The charity Breast Cancer Now, it says that the number of referrals for suspected breast cancer in England between March and December last year fell by 90,000, with women saying they were worried about catching COVID during medical appointments. So a little bit of context about breast cancer. It is the most common cancer in the UK. 1 in 7 women will get diagnosed at some stage. The vast majority, though, 85%, have really good survival rates. The earlier you're diagnosed, the better the chances of recovery. So if anyone is worried about any lumps or changes in their breasts, the advice is to get it checked out.
Catherine Burns, thank you. There's a growing backlash in the Conservative Party to suggestions of increasing national insurance contributions in order to fund social care in England. The former Chancellor, Lord Hammond, has warned Boris Johnson he'll damage the party if he adopts the policy, which would break a manifesto commitment. Our political correspondent, Damien Grammaticus, reports.
This is Kate Miko visiting her mother, Caroline, who is 75, in a care home with dementia. Kate is selling her mother's flat to pay for the care, £7,000 a month, and it's risen fast.
The stress of, are we going to be able to afford it? You hear about these astronomical care, and they are. To me, the fees are not sustainable at the levels that, certainly with mum's fees going up by 48% in 6 years. If should I ever need to go in a care home, I dread to think what the price will be.
The care system is in crisis. Some pay all their costs if they have assets. Others rely on local authorities who struggle to fund adequate provision. And battered by the pandemic, it's short on staff. Underpaid, there's 100,000 vacancies.
We'll work with national partners, with local partners, and those with lived experience of the social care sector to get this right, and get it right as we are determined to do.
We will fix the crisis in social care once and for all.
Boris Johnson, on his first day as Prime Minister, promised to fix this crisis, but that'll cost billions each year. And he also pledged no increase in major taxes, a pledge he's now considering breaking. It's thought the government is looking at raising national insurance contributions. Some Conservative MPs, though, don't want taxes to go up at all. Others think this would be a deeply unfair way to fix the problem, and Labour doesn't think it's the right solution.
The issue is an increase in national insurance contributions is asking young, working people, some of whom will never inherit a property, to subsidise older people who've accumulated wealth during their lifetime and have a property. And on any basis, that has got to be wrong.
We're sceptical about the idea of loading the entire burden of the social care crisis onto the supermarket workers and delivery drivers who are already dealing with really high housing costs, childcare costs and others.
So this is a huge test for Boris Johnson. As much as money, far-reaching reform is required, and he'll have to get it through his own party as well as through Parliament. Damien Grammaticus, BBC News, Westminster.
The Vaccines Minister, Nadeem Zahawi, has confirmed that proof of vaccination will be required to get into nightclubs or other large indoor events in England from the end of this month. He said it's the right time to introduce vaccine certificates because all over 18s will have been offered 2 jabs by then. The scheme has been criticised by venues and some MPs. Let's take a look at the latest UK coronavirus figures. There were 37,011 new infections in the latest 24-hour period. That means an average of just over 35,500 cases per day in the last week. Also, there were just over 7,500 people in hospital being treated for coronavirus 3 days ago, and 68 deaths were reported in the latest 24-hour period. That's someone who dies within 28 days of a positive COVID test. It takes the average number of deaths per day to 113 over the last week. On vaccinations, nearly 89% of people over the age of 16 have had their first jab, and nearly 80% of people have had both doses. The chief executive of one of Prince Charles's charities, the Prince's Foundation, has temporarily stepped down from the role following claims that he helped secure an honour for a major donor. Michael Fawcett is accused of helping a Saudi businessman receive an honorary CBE. Here's our royal correspondent, Johnny Diamond.
For decades, Michael Fawcett was the aide with the answers to the Prince's problems.
Mr. Fawcett, did you secure honours for cash?
Any comment on the allegations in the newspapers this morning?
Is the Sunday Times story true?
This morning, he wasn't taking questions. He's accused of promising to help this wealthy Saudi businessman, Mahfouz Mareh Mubarak bin Mahfouz, to get British citizenship and an honour in exchange for donations to the Prince's charities. He was the Prince's valet until 2003, but he was more than just a servant. A controversial figure at the palace, he won the loyalty of Prince Charles. Twice he left the Prince. Twice he came back, until yesterday the chief executive of the Prince's Foundation. Today, a former minister said there were questions to answer.
Now, Michael Fawcett's been forced to resign twice already, and both times, under cover of darkness almost, he was reinstated by Prince Charles when the hoo-ha had died down. So Prince Charles is very, very closely linked with this man, and I'm sure that whatever Michael Fawcett did would have been done with the full support of Prince Charles. Prince Charles is to answer questions about this, not Michael Fawcett.
The foundation said it takes very seriously the allegations that had recently been brought to its attention, and the matter is currently under investigation. Mr bin Mahfouz said he expected no reward for his charitable donations. A source close to the Prince told the BBC that Prince Charles was not aware of any link between donations to his charities and honours or British citizenship. Michael Fawcett has temporarily stepped down from his position. Johnny Diamond, BBC News.
A ceremony of lights, fireworks and dancing has closed the Paralympic Games in Japan. Great Britain's athletes finished second in the medal table, winning 124 medals, including 41 golds. Andy Swiss reports from Tokyo.
Last, but definitely not least, Britain's final medal of the Games was one of its most emotional, at badminton bronze for a tearful Kristen Coombs. Earlier, there'd also been bronze in the wheelchair basketball. The British team finished with 124 medals across a record 18 sports, and with their leader full of praise.
How would you sum up what this team have achieved?
History making. They've ripped up the sort of the stats, and we've put a marker down in terms of the depth of talent, and we're very, very proud of what we've achieved out here in Tokyo.
And so the end of a successful Games for Britain and an unprecedented one for the Paralympics. Despite being postponed for a year and held during a pandemic, Tokyo 2020 has finally reached the finish line. Amid a colourful closing ceremony, the British flag was brought in by bocce gold medalist David Smith, while Afghanistan's two athletes also paraded after being evacuated from Kabul to take part. For all the competitors, this was a Games they feared might never happen, so the gratitude to their hosts was clear.
Together, against the odds, we did it. The Tokyo 2020 Paralympic Games have not just been historic, they have been fantastic. To the people of Japan, you made this possible.
And after 12 dazzling days, the Paralympic flame was extinguished. Paris now awaits in just 3 years, a reminder of the struggles these games have faced. But they've happened for Japan and for sport, the end of a truly extraordinary summer. Andy Swiss, BBC News, Tokyo.
Now, the rest of the day's sport comes from John Watson. Hi, John.
Jane, many thanks indeed. Good evening. England are leading Andorra in this evening's World Cup qualifier at Wembley. Earlier, Gareth Bale rescued Wales with a hat-trick as they beat Belarus. The match played at a neutral venue. The win keeping their hopes alive of reaching Qatar next year. As Ben Croucher reports.
2,000 miles from home to play Belarus in Russia. A long, complex journey, but it's not so bad when you have a man as well-travelled as Wales do. Gareth Bale arrived in Kazan with a bump.
It's going to be a penalty.
The perfect welcome gift inside 5 minutes. The game, though, can change on the bounce of a ball and the lifting of a foot. Chris Gunter and Wales were left high and dry. 90 seconds later, Pavel Sedko had the freedom of the Welsh penalty area.
And they trail by 2-1.
Injury and visa problems left Wales without 13 players for this qualifier, an opportunity for Brennan Johnson to seize. Almost. So it came down to their top scorer again, Bale on the spot. 2-2. Still, it's a long way to go for just a point. So in stoppage time...
To Gareth Bale! It's in!
Reaching Qatar next year maybe doesn't feel quite so far away after all. Ben Croucher, BBC News.
Red Bull's Max Verstappen has regained the lead in the Formula One Drivers' Championship. The 17th win of the Dutchman's career came in front of jubilant home support in Zandvoort, finishing ahead of world champion Lewis Hamilton, who he now leads by 3 points. The Mercedes of Valtteri Bottas was third. England need a record run chase if they're to win the fourth test after India set a huge target of 368 at the Oval. 171 runs ahead. At the start of the day, Shardul Thakur contributed 60 more before India were out for 466. At stumps, England yet to lose a wicket, though. They'll look to bat through tomorrow's final day for at least a draw and set up a series decider in the final test at Old Trafford. And reigning champions Chelsea were beaten in their first match of the Women's Super League season. They only lost once in their title-winning campaign, but 2 second-half goals from Beth Mead handed Arsenal a 3-2 win in front of 8,000 fans at the Emirates. In the day's other game, Brighton beat West Ham 2-0. And you can follow the latest from the Solheim Cup over on the BBC Sport website this evening. The United States now trailing Europe by just a point. And Dan Evans is just about to get underway in the last 16 of the US Open tennis against the second seed Daniil Medvedev as well. That, though, is all from me for now. It's back to you, Jane.
Thanks very much, John. Thank you. And that is it. I will be back with the late news at 10. Now on BBC One, let's join our news teams wherever you are. Bye for now. And a very good evening to you. You are still watching BBC News, and we will take a look at a few of the other stories around here today.